When I perfected the recipe for fried calamari, it was a total no-brainer to make this Cantonese salt and pepper squid. Prepared in a similar manner to Cantonese salt and pepper pork chops, the fried pieces of calamari are tossed in a mixture of crunchy, stir-fried garlic, ginger, and hot green peppers. Nevertheless, I persisted, and it was my deep understanding of two prophetic books, the Book of the Apocalypse and my most beloved Book of Psalms, that led me to begin dictating my visions to Volmar. Come summer, AK and I hit Yosemite. We had little backpacking equipment, just a couple of canteens, some brown paper grocery bags of food, and a couple of sleeping bags. The radicality of this reversal is somehow obscured by another kind of reversal, with which it is frequently identified, and which, since Plato, has dominated the history of Western thought. In this state of heightened suggestibility, they are given an intensive course on theoretical and applied Marxism. In the Book of the Apocalypse appears the woman clothed in the sun, whose particular shape and glory we revere in the liturgical texts on August 15th for the feast of the Assumption of the Virgin, and the senseless, ghost-like motion ascribed by Homer to the lifeless existence of the soul after death in Hades is now ascribed to the senseless doings of men who do not leave the cave of human existence to behold the eternal ideas visible in the sky. I began to understand a relationship between these numinous women who appeared to me transfigured, so illuminated from within by divine radiance that filled them and extended outwards all around as if wrapping them in the very light they had emanated, and the remarkable women in the Apocalypse. We wrote our first ever song, a kind of a limerick full of nonsensical made-up words, called Himmy Limmy. Under this system of training, the human raw material is shipped to special camps where the trainees are completely isolated from their friends, families, and the outside world in general. An unexpected current came, I slipped, and the top of Anthony's canteen fell into the river, washing away, lost for all time. They live in chronic fear of the dreadful fate that may befall them on the account of what has been said about them by informers, or of what they themselves have confessed. The soul is not the shadow of the body, but the body the shadow of the soul. I returned to our lame campsite with the water, feeling badly about the top, and explained to Anthony how I lost it and that he could have my canteen. Not life after death, as in the Homeric Hades, but ordinary life on Earth is located in a cave in an underworld. Dearer to me than almost anything I know, my greatest comforters, God's highest praises and thanksgivings. The Psalms are prophetic. They are songs, and they are a book. I was needy for stable support, and he was needy for the stability of control. Academic philosophy, as a matter of fact, has ever since been dominated by the never-ending reversals. One after another, or in whole groups, the trainees break down. Neurotic and hysterical symptoms make their appearance. The scrolls, I thought, the scrolls. Here is a prophet who is told he must write what he sees, no matter how strange it may sound. The concepts themselves remain the same, no matter where they are placed in the various systematic orders. When we have this, it tastes like weekends in Queens with my grandparents and family lunches in Chinatown. We usually only eat salt and pepper squid out at Cantonese restaurants, as it's a real treat, but now we can enjoy making it at home the way we like it. These reversals already began with the philosophical schools in late antiquity and have remained part of the Western tradition. Anthony and I slept out in the backcountry for 5 mind-blowing days, making campfires, hiking the trails for long miles, marveling at the infinite star nights, smoking our weed, feeling alive. Consequently, their training will be much less rigid than the training imposed upon those whose business is not to reason why, but merely to do and die with the minimum of fuss. I began to pay more attention to the words and the form of the Apocalypse of John the Evangelist. In this context, I I am concerned only with the fact that the Platonic tradition of philosophical as well as political thought started with a reversal, and that this original reversal determined to a large extent the thought patterns into which Western philosophy almost automatically fell wherever it was not animated by a great and original philosophical impetus. First day, we hiked to the top of Yosemite Falls, a good few miles straight up some switchbacks. In a medium-deep pot, add enough oil so that the level of oil reaches 4 inches up to the side of the pot. Heat the oil until the temperature reaches 325 degrees. After that, I began to realize that the 150 Psalms in the Divine Office we pray each week of the year in fact make up a single book, a prophetic book, and that these prophecies are also and have always been embodied as songs. He then froze me out, stopped talking to me until the next day. In these camps, they are made to perform exhausting physical and mental work. They are never alone, always in groups. They are encouraged to spy on one another. They are required to write self-accusatory autobiographies. What matters here is a reversibility of all these systems, that they can be turned upside down or downside up at any moment in history without requiring for such reversal either historical events or changes in the structural elements involved. When we got to the top, some nice hippies saw us with our ridiculous grocery bags and took pity, sharing their watermelon with us. First, prepare your squid. Rinse it well in cold water. Cut the tentacles off using one cut, keeping about a 1/4 inch of the hood in order to end up with one piece of calamari that includes all the tentacles. I took our canteens down to the river to fill with water. I took off the tops of our canteens, set them on a rock, then crouched down to dip the jugs into the pristine flowing river water, excited for a long, cool drink. Under a long-established and well-regulated dictatorship, our current methods of semi-violent manipulation will seem, no doubt, absurdly crude. Once Plato had succeeded in making these structural elements and concepts reversible, reversals within the course of intellectual history no longer needed more than purely intellectual experience, and experience within the framework of conceptual thinking itself. I counted on his love. It was a painful pattern, a dynamic that repeated between us in many contexts for years to come. Conditioned from earliest infancy, and perhaps also biologically predestined, the average middle or lower caste individual will never require a conversion or even a refresher course in the true faith. Over and over again, it is the scrolls that are evoked to reveal these mystical texts, so that we understand their mysterious cadences as being read and sung, not simply spoken. Light does not exist without darkness, the shadow side of our friendship. These upper caste individuals will be members still of a wild species, the trainers and guardians, themselves only slightly conditioned, of a breed of completely domesticated animals. When the oil reaches temperature, you're ready to start dredging your squid. Work in batches of small fistfuls of calamari. Gently squeeze off any liquid and dredge the squid in the dry mixture. We have these visions because St. John did what he was ordered. Something about the writing slipped into place for me, and the possibility that it was not humility, but pride that was keeping me from writing presented itself as well. He was furious, telling me he knew I would mess it up. That's just the kind of person I was, an idiot who couldn't get things done right. His words crushed me. Their wildness will make it possible for them to become heretical and rebellious. I feel this might help me to stabilize the ever-increasing variations of music I must organize and teach for the performance of the play of the 16 Virtues and their Queen. Those who survive the rigors of the conversion process emerge with new and ineradicable behavior patterns. All their ties with the past, friends, family, traditional decencies and pieties, have been severed. They are new men, recreated in the image of their new God, and totally dedicated to his service. Symptomatic of my fragility, my yearning for familial comfort, Taste one piece of calamari for saltiness. Be careful, it's hot. You can sprinkle more salt immediately after frying to your taste. A necessary step, however, is to crack some fresh white pepper over the freshly fried squid. Continue frying in these small batches and seasoning with white pepper until you've fried all the squid. In this way it seemed possible, according to what I knew, to embody my own prophetic gift in songs and words, and I zealously began to obey the voice of Sapientia by recording what I saw and heard in the Book of Visions that came to be called Sevius. Brainwashing, as it is now practiced, is a hybrid technique depending for its effectiveness partly on the systematic use of violence, partly on skillful psychological manipulation. Ours was an intimacy born of the hustle. We were closest when we had nothing. But universal infant conditioning and the other techniques of manipulation and control are still a few generations away. On the road to the brave new world, our rulers will have to rely on the transitional and provisional techniques of brainwashing. Using a long-handled sieve or slotted spoon, lower the calamari into the hot oil. Gently move the calamari pieces back and forth. Let them fry until golden brown, about 2 to 2.5 minutes. Remove all calamari and let drain on a paper towel-lined plate. Some of the victims commit suicide. Others, as many we are told as 20% of the total, develop a severe mental illness. Whether it was rolling a huge tractor tire down the steep hill of Palm Street, causing havoc when it careened into the heavy traffic on Santa Monica Boulevard, or walking backward into movie theaters to outwit the ticket takers, or skipping the bill at Cantor's Delicatessen with waiters and busboys in hot pursuit, we egged each other on, each scam and absurdity creating a stronger bond between us. The conviction that objective truth is not given to man, but that he can know only what he makes himself, is not the result of a skepticism, but of a demonstrable discovery, and therefore does not lead to resignation, but either to redoubled activity or to despair. So the little pig went off before the time as usual, and got to the fair and bought a butter churn, which he was going home with, when he saw the wolf coming. Then he could not tell what to do, so he got into the churn to hide, and by doing so turned it around, and it rolled down the hill with the pig in it, which frightened the wolf so much that he ran home without going to the fair. He went to the little pig's house instead, told him how frightened he had been by a great round thing which came down the hill past him. And the little pig said, "Ha, I frightened you then. I had been to the fair and bought a butter churn, and when I saw you, I got into it and rolled down the hill." Then the wolf was very angry indeed and declared he would eat up the little pig, and that he would get down the chimney after him. When the little pig saw what he was about, he hung on the pot full of water and made up a blazing fire, and, just as the wolf was coming down, he took off the cover and fell in the wolf. So the little pig put on the cover again in an instant, boiled him up, and ate him for supper, and lived happily ever after. People may wonder how to cook salt and pepper squid to perfection, and it may seem intimidating, but follow this salt and pepper squid recipe and you'll be pleasantly surprised.